Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Couch Conversations with the Doctors, where health is wealth. What night is it tonight? It is Monday night, and it is time for Couch Conversations with the Doctors. As always, we're going to go around introducing our esteemed panel that we have here with us on tonight, starting with that doctor who's the weight loss guru, that family practice medicine specialist, known as the Wolfgang Puck of nutrition, our very own Dr. Tony Hampton. Hey, Tony.
Hey, Nikki and team. So happy to be here. I was given the privilege of having a conversation with one of our newer docs, and I was so grateful because in that interaction, as we were seeing patients, she had a chance to see some of the success. And we had a patient who had lost maybe 30 pounds, 40 pounds in a short amount of time, just changing the diet. So I'm a big fan of that. I'm on the south side of Chicago. I work for Advocate Health and help people with traditional family practice concerns, but also with weight loss. So I'm happy to be here and looking forward to our discussion.
Outstanding. Well, to the man who says I threaten him to be here every Monday night, but he seems to always be on time, that's our very own Dr. James Miller. Dr. Miller.
Well, I want to say good evening to everybody, and want to thank Nikki and Congressman Davis for having me on this forum and providing us an opportunity to speak with our community and discuss issues that concern one of the most valuable things that most people have it if they have it, which is good health. And so we're here and happy to be here to discuss the issues and discuss the ways and that are necessary in order to have that good health if you really seek to have that. And I'm a retired internist, retired in 2019, but I'm still interested in healing the community. And so I'm here on that particular avenue to try to heal, to do what I can to heal the community in the ways that I can.
Outstanding. Well, to that physician who is the DJ by night and physician by day, that's our very own Dr. Pete Thomas. Hey, Dr. Pete.
Hey, good afternoon. I am extremely happy to be here to join my colleagues in educating the community. Looking forward to a very vibrant conversation. And thank you and the congressman for creating this space for the community and for the docs.
Outstanding. I want to say hey to Angela Underwood, who is here with us. Hey, Angela, how are you? To my coworker who tends to leave me and have fun in the sun, but who knows where he's at right now? That's our very own Dr. Douglas Graham. Hey, Doug.
Hey, Nick, I confess I'm docking the desert right now. I'm going where it's warm.
Can't say I blame you, Doug.
So I'm a retired physician like Dr. Miller. I spent 30 years working in the western suburbs, and after I retired, I joined the congressman in his office for 2 years. And it was an eye-opening experience. It got me interested in public health and public service. It's really an honor to be here with my colleagues, and I'm going to try and answer your questions as best I can.
Outstanding, and thank you so very much. I want to say hey to Marshall Oliver, who is here with us, and also to Connie Taylor, who is here with us. And Connie Taylor says, good evening to everyone. Well, to the one who makes this possible for us each and every Monday night, to the one who tells us that true health is wealth, that's our very own Congressman of the Illinois 7th Congressional District, Congressman Danny K. Davis.
Well, let me thank everybody and also all of those who may be viewing and listening. Of course, we know that our federal government is on shutdown, and it doesn't look like it's going to get off soon. If you listen to the news, if you pay attention to the commentators, if you pay attention to what those who are experts are saying, they don't see a resolve immediately. They. As a matter of fact, we're home all of this week with no direction or no indication that there would be any reason to think that we're not going to be home. Of course, if there was something to vote on, we would have to have a 48-hour notice, and we have not gotten any notice at the end of Monday, and that means there is no notice ready. I don't know that they're negotiating tonight. If they are, I haven't heard anything about it. And so people are beginning to express serious concerns about what the shutdown will actually mean for them and to them. At some point, as we get to talking, I would like to share a few things that people are saying. But in the meantime, I think we can move ahead with the expert opinions of our physician group in terms of what they feel the stalemate is doing to healthcare and how it might be impacting the ability of people to get the care that they need. And then I phase in some of what other people are saying and just kind of share a few thoughts from the responses that we've gotten. I make a big point of saying that listening to people kind of gives you a lot of insight into what you ought to be about and what you're doing. That doesn't mean that you don't provide leadership, but it really means that you take what the general public is saying and try and shape that into action that responds to what they think ought to happen. So again, thank everybody, and we'll just kind of see how it flows.
Outstanding. Want to say hey to Alderman Pat Dow, who is here with us, and a great hello to Audrey J. Cox, who is here with us just as well, and to President Steele, that's Carrie Steele of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation, who is here with us just as well. So, doctors, take it away.
So I'd like to start in saying that, the shutdown is the way I view it is a preventative measure. We have one side that's determined to harbor resources and distribute resources one way and indifferent to what the other side wants. And fortunately, there is a constitutional remedy to deal with the situation. If the Democrats had not shut down the government, there would be this continuing problem with healthcare insurance, that the subsidies from the Affordable Care Act would have expired, and those things that had kept health insurance premiums for those people who don't get their insurance from their employer or from Medicare would rise, and not just by a little bit, but by a lot. So this is what, from my perspective, a preventative and protective measure and not a destructive measure. The Democrats are doing their best to protect those who have the least power and clout from the terrible set of circumstances of not having health insurance. The biggest cause of bankruptcy in the United States is medical expenses. I do not see how we were going to have a growth economy without a healthy population and economic health in that population. You won't have any construction, you won't have any job development, you won't have any growth without health first. We learned that from COVID, and yet we seem to have lost that lesson all over again.
So I'll chime in. The coverage question shouldn't be a question in the world's wealthiest country.
Yeah.
I mean, it shouldn't. I'll always remember taking a trip to France and my wife needed to have some care, And when we attempted to pay for it, they laughed at us. And I'm wondering if they're still laughing at us.
Yeah.
If we just don't take care of our citizens, it should be a human right. Now, I know we're not there yet, but and it's not really for catastrophic, moments. Most of the stuff I do in my clinic is prevention, and it's about teaching people how to heal, and it's much cheaper than catastrophic care. So without coverage, everything gets worse. The person who just had a blood pressure issue may not have access to their medicines and the information to show them how to heal, and then they end up with a stroke, and that's going to be catastrophic to the family, not just in that moment, but catastrophic. Because I saw somebody with a stroke today, and they couldn't move the left side of their body. It was a productive working person, not very old either, and now they have to, a sibling has to take care of them, and not to mention the emotional toll, not only on the patient, but on the family. And so everything has to stop, because if you don't get care, then it's hard to prevent things. So I spend a lot of my energy talking about why we get sick and how to prevent it. And now we're in a situation where these things are real. I would never believe that these things would be possible until I saw all the other things that's happening. And there's so many things happening in society right now that are surprising, upsetting, and shocking. So for those who may find themselves in harm's way, the one of the things I always tell patients is just to prepare. Now I know that's easy to say as a doctor, right? But what you're trying to do is, what happens if I can't get access to care? Well, one of the things we do in our health system is we always try to get people to do like 90-day prescriptions. That's helpful. It's helpful to have a copy of your records. It's helpful to keep the cost low. So you're always asking doctors, what's the cheapest medicine that can do the same thing? And I'll be honest with you, because I'm such a fan of universal care, I push back at insurance companies, and people need to be aware that there are companies like there's one called, I think it's called crowdfunding, where the people fund the insurance instead. So sometimes you have to fight the powers by being involved in other entities. So just know that that's a real thing. Like a crowdfunding insurance, where you pay the insurer $50 a month, who organizes, and then the money that you spend is based on the crowd funding all the costs. And what they do really well is they negotiate prices. So if it's $1,000 procedure, they may ask to, what's the best you can do? Can you give it to me for $800? And then if you do that, I'll pay up front. That's like a cash price model. But a lot of people go for that because a lot of times they don't get the insurance money that they were hoping for. So I do think we have to be nimble and flexible. But the best advice I can give people out there is to kind of put your bank account you want to create a rainy day fund. And part of that is, I have money if I get sick and I'll be able to use it. But the other part really is just being as healthy as possible. So if you're as healthy as possible, you'll be able to weather the storm. And you do that with the lifestyle changes we talk about in this channel. So I just want to encourage people to stay optimistic. The world is crazy right now, but I still listen to inspirational people every day. My wife listens to Angela Mailu. I listen to motivational speakers like Eric Thomas or Anthony Robbins, just to keep my brain okay while we're in this storm. So I'll defer to my colleagues.
Yeah, I think, for those of us who are on the front line, it's important as healthcare providers. One of the things that they look from us is to give them hope and inspiration to continue taking care of themselves. I try to, when they come in, I mean, it's clear that this situation is real, and to make sure that they're doing everything within their own power, right? So that's a lot of what Dr. Hampton was talking about, which is, like, look, Trump is not forcing you to go eat bonbon cakes, okay?
Right.
So he's not, that administration is not forcing you not to go exercise, and so there are some things that you can do that you should continue doing.
Yeah.
And there's some things that you should be doing no matter who's in office.
Right.
And so do that, control your controllables, but also don't dive into this. Like, sometimes you really do got to cut the news off, because it can be depressing. It's one bad story after another. That's not doing anything. If anything, that's raising your cortisol levels, which then raises your blood sugar and blood pressure. That's like reversing your medications and diabetes. So don't do that. So do stuff that's going to lower your cortisol levels. Laugh, cut on a comedian. Do that once a day. Something that makes you happy, and we'll make it through this. Now we need a plan, right? So I'm a firm believer of positive energy, but man, I need a group that's meeting about how we're going to reverse all this stuff that's going on, that's destroying the fabric of what our country really stands for. So I don't know, whatever the group is, we got to meet and we got to plan and we got to vote to get some relief going eventually.
Yeah. Let me just add a couple of things. They always say that the best time to plan for war is during a time of peace. And, so while we're in the storm, there are some other things that are not necessarily related to the actual day-to-day health care, but it's affecting the day-to-day health care. I was reading an article a couple of days ago, and this is regarding of the predicted health manpower, physician manpower shortage that we're headed for, especially with primary care physicians, because of the number of people that decided they don't want to do primary care, the number of people that are who have been practicing, who have sort of gotten to all the things that are going on has been somewhat of a deterrent. Want to make people just want to step away from the jungle, the warfare, the difficulty of dealing with this thing, healthcare, and so the prediction that that we are going to be facing a significant physician shortage, by 2035. I think we probably already is in that shortage, but they're talking about a much bigger shortage. And so we really need to be planning for that. I mean, planning to do something about that, not just that we're going to go within the shortage. I mean, we need to figure out what are we going to do to make certain that there's somebody to take care of sick people, and that they are properly prepared and trained to do those things and deal with the issues. And in addition to, I mean, you can have the resources but not have anybody to carry out the process, and it's difficult to be effective. So all of my colleagues have talked about things that you can do and you definitely need to do in terms of making sure that you do what you can to stay healthy. I was listening to somebody today, and they were talking about the issues of big pharma, and the idea was that sick people is a money machine for big pharma. A well person doesn't help them, and so the idea is that we have to make certain that we're not here to make big pharma survive, but we're here to survive ourselves. Because if we don't think about our health, and we don't think about the things that we need to do, and we're waiting for the one who's going to make money off of us being sick, that's one of those catch-22 that you don't want to be in the middle of, because it don't turn out well for the patients in that situation. So, I mean, there's some things that we need to be talking about. How do we get more young people interested in doing and providing health care in the future? How do we get somebody, especially when I look at the Black and brown population, some of these kids that used to be that are headed to jail if we don't get them doing something that's going to get their mind focused on something positive, like doing healthcare, taking care of somebody, becoming important to society. And we need to work on these. These are things that need a lot of energy and requires a lot of energy. It requires mentoring. It requires leadership. So we really got to work on those things. I mean, and that would be if everything was going smooth and we didn't have these other problems that we do have in the mix. We still have that problem out there, and we really got to begin to work on those kinds of things as well. Because if we get there, and now we got everything else is running smoothly, but we don't have the people to provide the care, then that's still a big issue to solve.
Wow. I want to say hey to Nellie Purnell King, who is here. She says, good evening to everyone. Dorothy Murphy is here, and she says, good evening just as well. Chief Valdemir Talley says, good evening to everyone. Angela Underwood says, we still have to pay the medical insurance premiums, even when it goes from paying $700 a month to having to pay $2,200 a month. This is impossible for families. The government must do better for people. Sister Bonnie is here, and she also says good evening. And Josephine Wade is here. That's Mother Wade. And she says, hello, Congressman. Good evening to everyone. We also have an anonymous statement that was sent in via messenger, and they said, Trump clearly lied to us. Since he has been in office, everything has risen, from even the cost of food to paying more than $300 each month for utilities. How do we supposed to live? Thank you so much for your comments. Pillow Talk, the entrepreneur, that's Fatima. She says, good evening from the Illinois Braid Alliance and Association. Valdemir Talley says, does cortisol truly block weight loss? Well, I don't know right now. I mean, dealing with these political determinants of health that we are dealing with, I think everybody's cortisol is going to be out of control. But go ahead, Tony. I think you wanted to answer that question.
That's so funny to me. Well, I can just say yes and move on. But most people are aware that cortisol is a hormone of survival. If I'm running from the bad guy, I want my cortisol to be high in that moment, because the adrenal glands will, in that moment, increase that hormone. So my physical, emotional, and my body's ability to run and seek help will be elevated. The problem is, and I'm a big fan of trying to keep the insulin level low, is that when your cortisol is high, which is a stress hormone, you raise your insulin hormone. And when you raise your insulin hormone, that's the fat storage hormone. And that high insulin level is probably this is what people don't know. Your ability to predict heart attacks and stroke is about twice as effective than your cholesterol and your LDL cholesterol just by checking your blood pressure. But it's 6.7 times more effective than your cholesterol and triglycerides if your insulin level is high, which is raised from your cortisol as well. So cortisol definitely is a problem. It increases cravings, it increases belly fat, and it's a hormone that will, because it charges you up, will make it hard to sleep. Now, you want your cortisol to be high in the morning, and your body will naturally have a high cortisol in the morning. And sometimes I get in front of a bright light, a mood light, 10,000 luxes in the morning, just to get my circadian rhythm. We want the melatonin high at night, cortisol high in the morning. And so for people who are concerned about cortisol, you got to prioritize sleep. You got to prioritize stress reduction, and maybe some meditation, deep breathing, those types of things. And if you do that, that's the longer answer to the short question, which the answer is yes. Cortisol will not help you lose weight. It'll help you gain weight. So let's stay away from stress, and you need to take control so that you don't feel stress in a stressful time. If you got through the pandemic, you can get through almost anything. The pandemic was a hot mess. It was a hot mess. I was looking outside my window, and it was a ghost town. I mean, I remember driving by a mall in Orland, and it was a ghost town. It's like 12 in the afternoon. There was no cars anywhere. I felt like I thought Will Smith or somebody was going to show up. I thought some aliens or something was going to get me, but it was just a crazy time, and I think it was so much fear. So if we can get through a pandemic, guys, we can get through anything.
Yeah.
I have a question here. I want to direct to Dr. Pete and Dr. Tony. And since you're out there on that front line now, and it's kind of back to what I was saying before, but talking about the present. What is the situation in terms of manpower shortage? How is it affecting your ability to provide for the people who want you to care for them?
Yeah. I can go. So I also I'm also a medical leader in my system. And when I'm looking for providers, and I just don't remember a time when, it was hard to find someone that wants to work a full-time position. It's like everybody was looking for, I'll work a couple of shifts. It's like, no, I need a full-time doctor. I need a full-time provider. It's like, it's rare to find someone, and then of course you want to try to find someone that looks like the community that you're taking care of. That's even harder. So, and I'm really concerned because of the new legislation around the kids can only take out a certain amount of loan money to get through like med school and stuff. And I can tell you, a lot of people don't have a linear path. It's kind of zigzag. And if you're limiting the amount of loans that kids can take, these kids are coming from first generation families. Like they're not coming from rich families that can afford to send them to med school and law school and stuff like that. So it's like there's this plan to build a permanent underclass, right? It's like the kids that are smart enough to pass, to do well in their undergrad classes, do well on the MCAT, and now I can't afford to go to med school. That's a sad scenario when we need those kids, and we're limiting the amount of providers that are coming from overseas. So now so to your point, this is a great subject, Dr. Miller, because it's like, okay, so now you're limiting visas for international graduates. You're limiting the amount of loan money that kids here could take out in order to go to med school. It's like we're being squeezed from both ends, and the ultimate price will be paid by the patients who don't have providers to take care of them, and that's even a worse scenario. So yeah, definitely we got to pull all our resources together. We got to really get real creative in these next, 4 years or 3 years and 36 months or whatever it is. I'm counting because we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
And
Let me ask a question.
Oh, go ahead, Congressman.
There were 5, 6, 7 million people who demonstrated on Saturday in many places all across the country. Do you think this demonstration or these demonstrations will have the kind of effect that we hope they will have, in terms of the end result being that people will change their individual behavior and at least vote
Yes.
when elections come around?
Yeah. It seems so obvious that we should be inspired. We have normalized the abnormal, but we don't want to land there. So I think the short answer to your question is 100%. I think that it will. When you think about people who have run for office, who have inspired people, rather you're talking about, Barack, I mean, I hadn't actually done anything politically. I had never made a phone call. Me and my wife actually made phone calls downtown somewhere. I have no idea where we were. I just know they just herded us over there, and I made phone calls. I had never really contributed to any campaign, prior to that. And I got a little excited about Bernie when he ran, and I did things that I hadn't. I had getting my wife to let me send a check to anybody is pulling teeth, because she's a strong sister. She don't play with the house money. But I explained to her that if we don't believe in something, so in other words, we need inspirational leaders, and that leadership that we get from inspirational leaders will inspire people. So I think the people who put this No Kings event together are trying to do that work. There are clearly some people in our in our parties that are inspiring, and we need more of them. And we can't be afraid to say that we're here to help people. I think when you're right in the middle all the time, you're always trying to tote that line. And instead of representing people, you're representing your own interests, and you're concerned about your donors. And I understand I'm not a politician, but if you can stand for something and really stand for it, because that's what, to me, when I see politicians not being authentic in what their beliefs are, then they sound wishy-washy, because you'll ask them a question and they can't even answer it. But when you have a politician that's standing for something that means something, and or a leader, whether it's a pastor or a community leader, people will follow that because they believe in you, and they believe that what you're saying is from your heart. Even if somebody doesn't 100%, do you know anybody you 100% agree with? I can't find that person, including in my own house. We don't agree on everything. Don't put this online. You just don't agree on everything. But yes, so yes, I believe that mass mobilization that was done, putting out these ideas that we care, this is important to us, putting that message out there will inspire young leaders. But more importantly, let's inspire the people who are already in those positions. I mean, I'm always impressed when I see people on both sides of the aisle finding something like they did back in the day when you started being a leader, Danny Davis, and you sat with your Republican counterpart and had, a beer with them after you guys had a conversation and agreed. And I just think that we're going to start moving back to that, and we're going to start seeing Democrats and Republicans agreeing on some things. So I am a little altruistic and positive, but because some of these issues are hitting home, we see people in that aisle that you sit in, Congressman, who are saying things that we're not expecting them to say. They're actually starting to, it's shocking. I don't have to name them. You know who I'm talking about. And you're like, oh my God, did this person just say what I would have said? And so if we can, and all I want us to do is align with those views that we agree with, and then at least make some progress for the people. Can we make a little progress? Can we get 2 or 3 things done that will help average people?
I do think though that while I'm inspired by the marching and the protests, there has to be some concrete steps.
Yeah.
What now?
Yeah.
So what are we gonna do? All these thousands and thousands of people, what are we gonna do to make that shift, to allow us to get back to a sense of balance and normalcy? And so we need to spell it out real plain for folks. We need 500,000 new registered voters under the age of 25. And now go. That's your marching orders. Like, I don't know. I didn't hear a lot of what happened, but I hope there was some, here's your marching orders. Go and whatever, let's register, whatever we're going to do. We need some marching orders for folks. And yes, the inspiration is there, but now what do I do with that? Like, after, I hold up my sign and I went downtown, now what? I think we need that clear message from our leaders.
Yeah,
I know
I think the question is sustainability, and sustainability has to do with having something that persists. You get an idea; it can't just be an idea that dies. It has to be an idea that you can carry on. And I think that was a good um, um, opening to starting the process of getting people to think a little bit different about what they did the last election. I think there's a lot of folks who realize that we talk about has been a lot of rhetoric about people that we didn't expect to vote for Trump that voted for Trump. But if we started looking at the number of people who didn't vote, if they had voted, it would not have made any difference who voted for Trump. The election could have Vice President Harris could have if those people had voted for her that did not vote, then she would have still won that election. So I think the idea here is not just to start the fight, but keep the kindling on it, keep it going, and keep the process going. Because again, it's about getting folks involved. Those people that stay at home, most of the time, they are not that involved. They may see things but they don't see themselves. They don't see a role for themselves in this fight. And sometimes people have to feel pain in order to be able to see that role, to see to understand how the pain is going to affect them. And I think that they're going to have a good opportunity to feel some of that pain in a few days. It's not that far away.
Well, this
Well,
is
I'm going to
pretty
try to be
painful.
as optimistic as you gentlemen. I know that Alderman Pat Dow is watching and listening, and she was the first person that I saw this morning at a meeting. So, Pat, I don't know if you would put something in the chat relative to, if you could say what you think about this, if you're still with us.
Okay. While we're waiting on Alderman Dow to put something in the chat, Doug, I think you were trying to say something.
Yeah, thank you, Nikki. What I was thinking of is, I think we can't rely on words. We have to require results. The people who are in charge have said a lot, but not necessarily followed what their words were. And so I think that I agree about the kindling, I agree about the fire, but we have to be focused on not the promises, but the results.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
It makes things easier. I remember when we had what we called the advocate operating system in our health system, but the leader in that model, which was a lean Toyota model for efficiency, he had a very specific algorithm and a way to let a future leader. So if you're like an associate, you want to become a senior associate, and you want to go from that to maybe the different levels, director, manager, whatever. You had specific targets you had to reach. You had to lead a project. And I had never seen that before. It's so obvious that that's a better model than to just hope the big brother promotes you one day. And it wasn't a guarantee that you would get to the goal. It just gave you, this is the ingredients that's necessary to make that soup called success in your field. So I think the same is true here. If we very specifically, as was articulated by Dr. Graham and Dr. Pete, if we very specifically said, this is why we're here to get inspired, but we're also here to set specific goals and targets. And I think it's such an obvious thing, but it doesn't always happen. And then we have to touch base in a few weeks and say, where are we at? Put the tally, go to CNN and MSNBC and even Fox News and say, listen, where are we at achieving that goal? And are we closer? And then we build momentum and we find. So I do agree with you guys. This is not complicated. It's just that I mean, what did the pastor do who was able to handle the Target situation? What did he do to make Target feel a little pain about the DEI situation. And he simply targeted this organization. He couldn't do all of them at the same time. But he's just a pastor. I don't know how big his church is. I just know that his strategy worked. So one person, one leader, one person who can inspire with the right strategy can achieve quite a bit. So I just think there's a lot of opportunity here.
So I want to say one thing else. I think it's really going to require persistence, because my recollection was this is kind of the idea of his first administration to kind of do something like this, and was persuaded not to. Now he's back in power again. He wants to do it his way again. So I think we have to be persistent. And even if you have one victory, you can't settle at one. You have to keep the pedal to the metal, keep on pushing, because if not, things go back to where they were.
Well, Dorothy Murphy says Dr. Julius Wilson, the permanent underclass, University of Chicago. And Audrey Jaycock says, and the ones that are registered need to get out and vote. So I think she's talking about when you talked about the voting, Dr. Pete. She says those ones who are registered need to get out and vote. We have an anonymous question that says, does this shutdown really affect Illinois? Well, yeah, it does. I mean, we are looking at least 10 plus hospitals shutting down. That includes our specialty hospitals, such as our VenCore hospitals or our ventilator facilities or our specialty care hospitals. And also we're looking at, over 14,000 federal employees just in Illinois alone being laid off right now. So, yes.
Of all the congressional districts in the country, the 7th is one of the most impacted districts in the nation. The big ugly bill. And if the cuts and all the things that are proposed to take place, we will be negatively impacted by $2.36 billion.
That's a big impact.
$2 billion. So, yep. I mean, we're in the eye of the hurricane. And of course, Illinois, period, is actually targeted by the White House. Chicago is targeted because of its
by the White House
sanctuary city status and other things. And that's for real. And that's not just MSNBC or CNN. That's for real. So, yep, unfortunately, yes.
I think we always
Patricia
talk about.
Says it's amazing how. No, go ahead, Dr.
Yeah, I was saying that we people are able to see clearly when a hospital closed down the effect, but oftentimes what they don't see is that hospitals have to cut back. They have to decrease the service that they're able to provide because of lack of funding or lack of people that are able to have insurance to pay for their care, and so that impacts the hospital. Therefore, those people that are in the community who are going to get sick, they're going to have a more difficult time finding the service that they need in a timely way. So there's a lot of different ways that it impacts us, that it might not be out front until you run into you go into the emergency room and they don't have beds to, they got a emergency room full of patients and no beds to put the sick patient that need to be an inpatient in. And those are impacts that sometimes people don't realize that until, maybe the news media get a hold to it or something like that. But most of the time, people are not seeing that until the hospital goes on bypass and they just can't take them. And so So these are the things that are happening probably to some extent already, not just hospital, but you're talking about nursing home facilities, long-term care hospitals. They are already being impacted in that way. And the planning process for the other hospitals that are trying to survive, it's just a difficult process to figure out. There's no way to replace money. Money, if you need those particular resources to keep your doors open, I don't know what you can get to replace that or put in its stead that will make the thing operate the way it should.
Well, Miss Dorothy said she was responding to Dr. Pete. And then Chief Tally says, I agree with Audrey. You must vote. Well, Patricia says, it's amazing how the president wants to buy 2 new helicopters for Homeland Security, which is costing over $200 million. However, he does not want to sign for us to have health care and stop increasing the cost of food and utilities. This world is backwards. Thank you so very much, Miss Patricia, for sharing. You are absolutely right. That does sound extremely backwards. We also have Fatima asks, Fatima, because I don't think this is Fatima from the braid. Her name is Fatima. Fatima asked the question, if Medicare is slashed and Medicaid is slashed, what happens to those who are in those facilities? Do they just put these people out on the street? Where do these people go?
Well, there's actually a second.
Great question. I think they're going to think about it for a second. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Doug.
In that these are the people get sent to collections for not being able to pay their medical bills. And this is a terrible, terrible thing to do when somebody is sick and trying to recover, to burden them with payment for health care. As I said, it's the biggest cause of bankruptcy in the United States. So all the tariffs in the world are not going to fix the economy. If everyone is bankrupt because of their health care costs, it's going to come to a grinding halt. So when the payment stops, the bills grow. And that's almost as bad as being able to recover it. It's just adding the anxiety, the concern, the stress, and the indignity of the circumstances.
Curtis from Instagram says, I thank you, Doug, for sharing that comment about bankruptcy. However, the man who sits as the commander in chief has filed bankruptcy more than anyone we know, and he's never been in a hospital. Well, thank you for that comment.
Well stated. It's true. But he's done that to keep other people from being paid. I don't think the sick person has the same intent.
Well, back to the question that you raised is what's going to happen to the people if
there's an anonymous question. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so back to your question that you raised, someone raised, what's going to happen to people that need care if the hospitals can't provide that care? They will have to, they won't be able to go to the hospital maybe that's close, that is near where they live. They'll have to find a place. They'll be transferred to other places. However, ultimately, there's going to be somebody that goes without the care that they need, and that's when the rubber hit the road. Is when people can't get the care because there's just not enough. The facilities, the personnel is just not able to do it, and that's when we see people, dying who shouldn't be dying.
But that's that rubber hitting the road, right? When this just becomes fatal for so many people. Melanie is here. Melanie is a nurse at one of our county facilities. And Melanie says, we are looking at that right now. When you have one nurse who has to take care of an abundance of patients and you cannot get to everyone. So if you think your call button was ringing before and you was waiting for assistance, just wait until they complete these cuts. Ask the doctors. They can tell you how difficult it is for us to be able to see so many patients at one time. Thanks, Mel. Well, what do we do? And how do we deal with this? Pete, I think you had great comments when you said we need some marching orders.
Yeah.
You are absolutely right.
Yeah. I
Well,
think
Congressman, what are our marching orders?
Keep on marching.
keep
Well,
on marching.
There are two. There are actually two marching orders. One, you got to vote. And number two,
Yeah.
you've got to write to your congressman and senator. You have to let them know this is a critical election issue.
Yeah.
You need to let your voice heard in both places.
We have an anonymous
Because-
question that says, Congressman, is it true that the Republican Congress people are on vacation and not at work?
They are not to be found. We can't find them. And their leaders are telling them, don't have town hall meetings. Don't have discussions with people. Don't answer their questions. Don't let them get answers from you that you don't have, because you don't know what we're going to do yet.
This is insane.
So they are in the
it is,
Republican, they are in the Republican Legislative Witness Protection Program.
That's what it sounds like.
Well, I know you guys hate when I say this, but it is our time. We have had a great, robust conversation on this evening, always with Congressman Davis. He leads us in those directions to really be solution focused. I know some of you are wondering, how are we smiling? Well, we laugh to keep from crying because this is a very difficult time. So I want to say, let's just stay prayerful. But as we go along, we're going to have our until next Mondays. So Doug, what's your until next Monday?
I have two. I'm going to repeat myself and say 3 stamps, 3 letters, both to your senators and to your congressman. Healthcare is important, and I vote.
I love that.
Okay.
Outstanding.
The other thing is, we're going to have to work on preventing illness. And I know I'm going to sound like a broken record. Flu shot, COVID shot, RSV, shingles if you haven't, pneumonia vaccine if you haven't. Those are things that are going to keep you from being admitted to the hospital and they're very serious medical expenses. They're affordable, they're safe, they're effective. Long-term play, stay well.
Outstanding. Well, Dr. Miller, you're until next Monday. You're muted.
You're muted.
Dr. Miller.
Yeah, I got it.
There you go.
Yeah. My until next Monday is that we're going to, you got to, I think that Saturday was a good example of how we can raise the pressure a little bit, but the pressure got to stay there. And people, as Doug said, that, everybody should be concerned about this serious situation and be concerned enough that you are going to do something. Don't just take it and not react to it, and don't react to it in a way that you're internalizing it and making you get stressed, but do something in an outward way so that your effort combined with other people's effort can bring about a process and make the process and put a little pressure on those things and those people that need to make things move forward. So we got to move forward. We can't just sit and we need to get up and go forward as opposed to sitting and dying, because certainly death can come and it can do whatever it does. It might not always kill us. Sometimes it just make us real sick. But in the meantime, we got to plan on living, and that means going forward, solving the problem, working on the problem, putting pressure where pressure needs to be, and that's just necessary.
Outstanding. Dr. Hampton, you're until next Monday.
I think our daily choices is the biggest lever we can pull, whether we have coverage or not. So I encourage everybody to pull the biggest lever and look at where you may have gaps. Am I not getting enough sleep? Is my life very stressful? And there are things I can do to reduce stress, like not watch the news every day. create a sense of community around your family. What happens if one family member gets sick and the others are fine or are covered and the other family members not covered? How can we work as a family to support each other like they did in the olden days? Let's keep hope alive. Let's not get caught up in the narrative that you don't control your future. No matter how scary it gets, you actually have all the control. As was stated earlier, broke folk were broke during Obama and under Trump. Rich folk were rich under Obama and under Trump. So you have to look in the mirror and say, what can I do to empower myself so that I'm not in the same situation, if it's not a good one, no matter who's in office. Right. So we're gonna stand, we're gonna fight, we're gonna protest, but in our current system, figure out how you're gonna thrive in spite of the system, because you only can control your controllables. So let's do that, as Brother Pete was saying earlier, control your controllables. And that way, when you're faced with a storm, you're going to probably weather that storm better than your peers. So that's my until next Monday. You keep control of your controllables.
Outstanding. Well, Dr. Pete, you're until next Monday.
You know, I was having a conversation with some friends of mine, and I mean, we're all probably considered to be, pursuing careers that were pretty challenging. And one of the things that we said was that we have to be outcome agnostic and just commit to the process.
Mm-hmm.
Commit to the process of taking care of yourself, the process of taking care of your neighbor, the process of making sure that you're registered to vote, the process of making sure your neighbor is registered to vote. That process will get us the outcome that we want. But I don't want people to get I don't want them to get fatigued, because that's part of their strategy too, is to hit you over the head so much that you just get tired, right? But if we're committed to the process of making sure that our kids are in a better situation than what we're in right now, and making sure that that this never happens again. People got bamboozled. There are people that voted for the wrong person and did not know they were voting against their own interests. And that includes their base. They voted against their own interests. They're cutting programs that they need. Okay. So that's insane. The people that voted for him, they're sending them people back. Okay. Now, I'm just saying, commit to the process of taking care of ourselves, and that includes taking care of each other. Like, I need to call Doug. I need to call Tony. Hey, how you doing? How's your family? Get some rest. Go on vacation. Go down and visit Doug. He's someplace warm. Okay. So we need to take care of each other. There's a generation of doctors that are leaving medicine, right? We have to make sure that there's another generation following behind us. Like, who are those kids? And they need to see us. They need our support. They need navigation. They don't know. So I'm saying, don't get fatigued. We're going to be all right, but commit to the process. That's until next Monday.
Exactly. Well, Congressman, as always, take us home.
Well, let me tell you, this has been quite stimulating. And I leafed through, and 97 of these 103 people pretty much think and thought and responded pretty much the way that we have responded, meaning that they think alike, but there are some bright spots. In spite of the gloom, I had a date with two wonderful ladies last week. One was 105 years old. This was Sunday evening at the Marshall High School Alumni Association's event where they were inducting people into their Hall of Fame. And she was dancing, had on an outfit out of sight,
Hmm.
a fancy hat, and she graduated from Marshall High School in 1937.
Oh, wow.
That's when she graduated. So we had a ball. I also was at a birthday party for a lady, Miss Lillian Drummond. She was at the party eating church's chicken, and she was 104, celebrating her 104th birthday. So you can take heart. I mean, some good things are still going on. But I was reading these responses, and I'll just read one. This person wrote, and she lives in zip code 60304. She said, my youngest child has severe global developmental delay. She is on the autism spectrum and is nonverbal. She lives in a CILA SEALA home. She relies on SNAP, Social Security, and Medicaid. Her vision and dental care require specialists. In 1939, Germany's Acton T4 initiated the euthanasia of people like her because it's expensive to care for them. There were 300,000 killed. They killed Romanized socialists, homosexuals, and Jews. Will this happen again here?
Mm.
To trans people or any that appear to be Hispanic or to anyone who opposes ICE or others, who will be next? And so, what she really is saying is that those who may not pay attention to history, you don't believe that these things could happen. The people didn't believe that Adolf Hitler would do what he did. They just didn't believe it. And so they kind of allowed Hitler to rise to the position of power that he had. And so she's warning us that we better do everything that we can to protect our democracy. Otherwise, we might find that it slips away. And if we sing a song at my church, sometimes is if I die and my soul be lost, it ain't nobody's fault but my own. And I think she is telling us that we better heed the rumble of the drum and that the beat is getting louder and louder and louder. And we just better beware because we may allow something to happen in our country that we really don't want to see.
Wow.
So thank you all. It's been a wonderful evening. Great, great evening. Tremendous conversation. Great insight. Have a good night and hopefully see you next week.
Thank you,
Good
team.
night.
All right.